Hey, Retcon Raider here. Well, it's a little later than I originally intended, but now that I've finally got a quiet moment in my new production schedule, I thought we'd take a look at how the channel did back in January. As of last month, the channel is officially 21 months old, though this is technically my third year on YouTube. 3 years, 3 Adpocalypses. As always, it's been a very interesting ride. Anyway, we'll save Adpocalypse 3.0 for next month's retrospective. For now, let's just look at the numbers for January. Now, overall, January was another relatively slow month, though thankfully not quite as slow as December. According to the analytics, we ended up pulling in a total of roughly 270 new subscribers and 73,000 total views. That's about a 15% increase over our numbers from back in December, and it more or less puts us on par with the channel growth we were seeing back in early 2018. As a reminder, I'm still relatively new to YouTube. It certainly feels like I've been doing this forever, but like I said, it's actually been less than 2 years. Although I am disappointed with the sluggish numbers we saw over the holidays, it's actually nice to finally see some patterns falling into place. Of course, as usual, it doesn't really help that my release schedule for January was a bit sporadic. My usual goal for each month is to finish and upload at least 15 new videos, and I think this was the 3rd or 4th month in a row where I fell just short of that number. A big part of the problem was my relatively unstructured production schedule, which normally worked out just fine, but didn't really allow for unexpected delays like sickness or jury duty. In this particular case, I ended up throwing out my back roughly 1 week into the new year. It's something that's never actually happened before, but I guess it really shouldn't have caught me by surprise. After all, I've been carrying around a little extra weight since my days at the comic shop, and I'm certainly not getting any younger. I'm hoping it was just a one-time thing, but even now, weeks later, there are still days when my back feels pretty stiff. Regardless, as unpleasant as the whole experience was, it did succeed in highlighting just how fragile and unsustainable my previous production schedule really was. Over the past 6 months, I've basically been racing from one project to the next, focusing on one video at a time and uploading them as soon as each one was finished. I think the idea was that by focusing on one project at a time, it would somehow let me put out videos a little faster, but honestly, between things like hearing fatigue and outright boredom, I think it actually had the exact opposite effect. Now, back when I first started the channel, I actually had a pretty solid system in place. I would plan out my videos 2 weeks in advance, break each project down into 4 or 5 bite-sized pieces, and then set up a rolling production schedule so I could jump from one project to another whenever I started getting bored. That way, I could consistently make progress on multiple projects, while also keeping my brain fully engaged in the entire process. I decided to start getting back into those old habits in late January, and I'm happy to say, as of right now, the new production schedule is actually going pretty well. It's obviously a little too early to tell if I'll be able to maintain it long term, but thus far, the results have definitely been pretty encouraging. That said, we're coming up on the end of February at this point, so you've already gotten a pretty good look at my new release schedule. My current plans are to release new Mutant Year Zero episodes on Mondays, new Pathfinder Kingmaker episodes on Wednesdays, and to rotate between Darkest Dungeon and Phantom Doctrine on Fridays. I'll also generally try to have some sort of bonus video ready to go each weekend for things like crowdfunding overviews, lore analysis, and these monthly retrospectives. It should make it a little easier to follow my various series, because they'll be getting updated on a slightly more consistent and regular basis. It will also make production a little more efficient, allowing me to build up a buffer to account for sick days or other days where I can't otherwise work on videos. The one real downside to this new system is that it doesn't really leave me much time for new games, but I'm still hoping to introduce new ongoing series as I finish the old ones. For example, we should be wrapping up the Mutant Year Zero series sometime in late March or early April, at which point I'll start using the Monday slot to hopefully start up something new. Of course, I will try to keep my production schedule at least a little flexible. There are a lot of great new games coming out in 2019, and while I won't have time for all of them, I may occasionally put one of my current series on hiatus just so I can try something new for a while. This will obviously be the case when it comes to high-priority projects like Phoenix Point, but I might also end up doing it for smaller games like Wasteland 3, Stygian, Reign of the Old Ones, and maybe even Xenonauts 2. In fact, one of the things I might start doing in the future is holding some sort of monthly poll, probably over on my Patreon. Like I said, there are a lot of great new games coming out in 2019, so it only makes sense to get a better idea of what my viewers would like to see on a more regular basis. At any rate, that pretty much covers January, so once again, I thought I'd round things out by introducing yet another one of my cats. Don't worry, I've only got 4 of these little furballs, so at this point, you've almost finished meeting all of them. That said, this stuck-up little princess is Reign of Terror, the oldest of my current batch of animal companions. I think I've mentioned it before, but I've had about a dozen cats throughout my lifetime, and I'm pretty sure that Reign here is cat number 6. My brother actually adopted her from a shelter roughly 8 to 10 years ago, alongside her sister, Coco Loco, but they were both passed on to me when he decided to move out of state. Reign is definitely a sweetheart, though she's also a bit of a prima donna. When she first moved into my household, it was just her, her sister, and cat number 4, Tiger Lily, who was almost 20 at the time. Coco was definitely the more submissive of the 2 sisters, and Tiger Lily was just too damn old to care, so that meant that for at least a few years, Reign was the uncontested queen of the castle. Unfortunately, her sister passed away about a year after we adopted her, and Tiger Lily passed away a couple of years after that. While we did end up eventually adopting a few more cats, including Kaiser and Deli, Reign never quite got over the idea that she was the uncontested ruler of her domain. It's funny, really, because before her sister died, she was actually a remarkably social cat. Not just with Coco, but also with cats from neighboring households who would often stop by to visit. I guess that was because she always knew that she could retreat back into the house once she got tired of them. That's not really an option these days, now that I no longer let my cats go outside. It's a situation that was made even more awkward by the fact that, while Reign is easily the largest of my cats, she's also the only one who's been declawed. Early on, she made a habit of trying to intimidate the other cats, camping out in doorways or other choke points to ward them away from her territory. Given that she's basically just 15 pounds of fluff and pillows, she usually just ends up confusing the other cats until they decide to leave her alone. This is something that she's largely outgrown over the past few years. She still gets a bit grumpy at times, but she's more or less made peace with the other cats, especially Ellie, who's the only cat that Reign seems to tolerate in her personal space. Anyway, I think it's about time to start wrapping things up, so, as usual, I'd like to close things out by giving thanks to you, the viewers. Even though our numbers have been relatively low over the past few months, the channel is still growing at a slow but steady rate, and that's thanks in large part to people like you. I'd also like to give special thanks to the people who have been generous enough to help support the channel through PayPal or Patreon. I know I've said it before, but even $1 can help offset some of the many costs that come with producing these videos. I'm especially grateful on months like this one, when, let's be honest here, YouTube's ad revenue system just isn't working as intended. Special thanks to my honorary raiders from January: Addam Hall, Austin Fagan, Benjamin Gray, Brad Quinn, Cecil Kane, Demetre Foster, James Trimmier, Mark Richards, Maximilian Monke, MidnightSun, Mr. Scar Lectures, Pontus Lundberg, and Stjepan Lovasic. And extra special thanks to my veteran raiders from January: AdriRaven, Ash, Drakiith, Drunken Gunslinger, Forbidden One, IceApple23, Jonathan Tanner, Laura and Mike, Mildly Nuclear, Nazzul, Sir Skelibate, Valinrook, and woes77. Oh, and special mention to Revenant and Rowan Church, my Raider Lord and Captain respectively. Once again, they're the only people crazy enough to keep backing the channel at the 2 highest tiers, and, as usual, I'm eternally grateful for it. If you'd like to help support the channel, then feel free to check out the links to my PayPal and Patreon in the description below. I know I don't really have much to offer just yet, outside of my usual array of videos, but I am hoping to add a few more rewards as we get further into 2019. While I haven't quite made up my mind on what I'd like to offer just yet, I do have at least a few ideas that I'd like to explore. At the very least, I'd like to finally set up some sort of official forum or Discord channel, and I'd definitely like to start experimenting with more polls in the future, to get a better idea of what my supporters might like to see. At any rate, I think that pretty much covers everything, so let's go ahead and wrap things up. After all, February might be almost over, but I've still got at least 2 more videos to finish before I'm ready for March. This is Retcon Raider, signing off. Thanks for listening. Oh, and remember, if you need to contact me for any reason, you can do it through the comments section on any of my videos, or you can reach me through my Facebook page, my Patreon account, or my official email address. As always, links are in the description.